everyone, and welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the show in which I find out how to find other people and, I don't know, gain resilience or something against the white oppressive hordes of the world. And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Thursday. Tenuous Thursday, because as soon as it's over, it's no longer Thursday. Yes, we're back once again. This time for one of the more dramatically titled TEDx's that I've done recently, perhaps. Well, you be the judge. Hope everyone is doing well. I'm in a bit of pain right now. I had some dental work done yesterday, and it's not comfortable. So if I sound a little off, that might be why. If I don't, well, oh well. And who is joining me on this adventure into loneliness and harm that has all been resolved now? We'll get to that momentarily. Mike R., hello. Matt Barnes, hello. Zalbla, hello. The Gay Rascal, hello. Havoc Vladimirovich Stalinov, hello. Fun Time Bats, hello. Asian Hippie, hello. Zeke Weiss, hello. Nobody Not Me, hello. Lucatorix, hello. Point Curation, thank you so much. C. Curb Your Enthusiasm, The Survivor. Well, I can't right now. I'm doing a TED Excellence, but I will look it up at some point. Sean Uli, hello. Lissa Leo, hello. Birgid, hello. Or Brigid? Brigid. I say Birgid. I think in my German class in high school, there was a girl or someone that took their German name as Birgid. I think that's why that came to mind. Anyway, completely off base. Dr. Keeve, hello. Dina B, hello. Non-Vitae Rex, hello. Some Namnyon Nation, hello. Corey Suzuki, hello. Brittany Holland, hello. Mike Savage, Blard. Pink Hall, the Driving Ape Man, hello. Aspianti, hello. And Robert Pincus, hello. Perfect Pitch, hello. No One, Nowhere, hello. All right, so what are we looking at today? Well, it sounds, I don't know, a bit full of thyself, but finding my people and healing from white supremacy. Finding my people and healing from white supremacy. So apparently, prior to whatever this is, our speaker had no people, and she was perpetually damaged by white supremacy. I'll be curious to find out the context of all of this, as should you, because hopefully we'll learn something. This TEDx clocks in at just over 16 minutes, so even a little bit over the usual average. Thought I had something else to say, but I guess let's just get right into it. As always, I will start off with a few seconds for a sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear this, and then we will proceed.
Hi, my name is Mandy.
Hi, Mandy. I'm Scribe. Nice to meet you. By the way, the sound on this is a little muffled by the nature of the recording. I did my best to clear it up and raise it a bit. I think it does get better as we go, but as you hear it, it is as it was recorded otherwise. So everybody hear that? Sounds good, but muffled? Yes, indeed. Sounds good to St. Michael. Sounds good. All right. Let's see what Mandy has to tell us. Ooh, look behind her shoulder. She's got lots of flair. All right.
And first and foremost, I want to thank my friend and chosen family member, Dr. David and Gwenny, for inviting me to this platform.
Okay, so you're here by invitation. All right.
Today, I want to share some of my learnings and stories about healing from white supremacy.
Oh boy, that's why I'm here. I mean, I know that white supremacy is the air that we breathe. It is the water in which we swim as fish. And I'm constantly being damaged by it every day. Every day. So I'm told. So how do you heal from it? Did you escape it? Did you somehow rise above it? Do tell.
Here's part one.
Okay.
Who are your people?
Uh-huh.
Ella Jo Baker was a brilliant civil and human rights organizer for more than 5 decades.
Mm-hmm.
When meeting people, she was fond of asking the question, who are your people?
Who are my people? Sounds a bit depersonalized, ironically enough.
She meant, where do you come from? But also, who do you identify with?
Yeah, see, I've been told lately that that's actually not the right thing to do. Try to ask somebody, where are you from? No, where are you really from? Yeah, so maybe it's antiquated now.
I want to start with this question because when it was first shared with me a couple years ago, I honestly didn't know how to answer.
Okay.
I didn't really remember which jumble of European countries my ancestors came from. I didn't feel connected to Methodism, which my mom practices, and didn't really know if I should claim my father's Jewish identity, religiously or culturally.
So none of those things had any importance to you. None of those things had anything to do with how you saw yourself or how you identified to yourself. They were functionally irrelevant because they functionally are irrelevant, or only as relevant as you decide to make them. But you hadn't. So why does it matter now?
I didn't want to claim my whiteness.
You didn't want to claim your whiteness. Is that what that is? By listing off whatever litany of previous nationalities your ancestors possessed, or religious faiths your direct family practices? That's claiming your whiteness? I hate to tell you this, whether you acknowledge the origins of your ancestors or the religions of your parents, your whiteness is as plain as your face.
In fact, I was actively judgmental of other white people.
Oh, why? You were judgmental of other white people? Just why?
I didn't feel especially proud of my hometown, a wealthy white central New Jersey town a couple miles up the road from Trenton, but more like a world away from it. I'm queer and polyamorous, but those words can sometimes cause a reaction that makes me feel more isolated than connected.
Okay, so again, white, European ancestry, what was it? Christian, Jewish, polyamorous, queer. You know what none of those things do? None of them. You know what none of them do? They don't say anything about who you are. They don't. Nothing. You could possess all of those qualities or be attached to all of those concepts and be a saint or a serial killer. So keep going.
Everything else felt trivial. I'm a bread baker, a gardener, a vegan,
a candlestick maker, a butcher,
someone who loves birds and most everything in the natural world.
Okay.
James Baldwin said the following. One of the things that most afflicts this country is that white people don't know who they are, where they come from. And that's why you think I'm a problem.
So if all white people knew, quote unquote, who they were / where they come from, we would have no problems in this country? Is that it?
But I am not the problem.
Oh.
Your history is.
Oh.
And as long as you pretend that you don't know your history, you're going to be the prisoner of it.
I know my history. My history goes back to 1979. My history goes back to 1979. What I have done with my life is what is pertinent to me. I do not wish to attach the mystic cords of memory any further back than my own actions and decisions. So, I don't know about you, but that's my history.
In the pursuit of being able to answer Ella Baker's question, I spent some time investigating my ancestors and myself. I learned that I come from a French cabinet maker,
Ah.
a German wagon maker,
Oh.
and a carpenter
Ah.
who somehow acquired, married into, or were born onto family farms in settler communities in Wisconsin.
Wow, they all sound so immediately and inherently prosperous. I bet they didn't have to work for a living or anything, because, well, presumably they were white.
I know of at least one ancestor living in Chicago who served in the Civil War for the Union.
Oh. Oh, so he put his life on the line to fight back against the South and ostensibly fight back against slavery. Oh, okay.
There are stories of survivors of shipwrecks in Haiti, and a family member lost to yellow fever while making the voyage.
Wow.
They had the means to hire domestic and farm workers, and then during World War II, their land was worked by German war prisoners. One of them saved the state's cabbage crop one year and had a local school named after him.
Wow.
They were able to talk their way out of bootlegging and train hopping after being caught by the police.
Yeah.
My grandmother grew up very fast when her brother died in the war and her mother passed shortly after.
Very interesting. And maybe a lot to venerate there, depending on what your family members did, one to the other. What does any of this have to do with you?
I also come from a Norwegian and Englishman whose stories of emigration are lost.
Oh, okay.
I come from a fire truck driver and women who hosted boarders.
I think you just come from your parents. I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure that you don't come from all of that.
During the Depression, one of my grandfather's parents couldn't afford to keep him fed and sent him away to his aunt's home. I'm the descendant of Russian and Ukrainian Jews fleeing persecution in the late 1800s.
Persecution by whom, might I ask?
One line of these Jewish ancestors' last name was lost, either due to error or assimilation. I come from Polish Jews who were prominent fur traders in Europe. Extended family members were among those murdered in the Holocaust.
Thank you. This is Kyle. Hello, chat people and scribbles. I don't know what my ancestry is beyond General Grant being one of my ancestors. Ancestry doesn't matter, lady. Ancestry can be very interesting. Let me back up a little bit, and I will also back up the video because I think I just cut her off slightly. I am not trying to downplay the interest and the curiosity that can go into finding out about where your family comes from and your family roots and so on and so forth. My grandparents and my mother have done extensive genealogical work, just curious about, what family member did what to whom and so on and so forth. My mother, in her growing up, had the opportunity to meet several generations of her family because they all kind of lived in the same area. So she knew, obviously, her mother and her mother's mother and her mother's mother's mother in the same period of time. And so there was a much stronger family connection to a living history. And the stories about my ancestors, the immediate ones anyway, are very interesting to me. I have a certain amount of extended, I guess, and I've talked about it before, pride, after a fashion, in the relatively humble roots of my ancestors. And I also take a lot of responsibility for doing my best to honor the sacrifices I know they made for their children and their children's children and up to me, So that does have an effect on me. I'm not going to say it's irrelevant completely about, anything about where I ended up. However, none of that caused me to make the decisions that I have made all by itself. I could have set that aside and had it mean nothing to me, even knowing it. It doesn't define you any more than you allow it to define you. Whether your ancestors were good people or bad people or mysteries or famous. So I'm curious to know, as we proceed, why our speaker, talking about the richness of her background, She did all this work to find out all these interesting things about her ancestors. Why all of that is something that she's going to collect into this concept that she now wishes to survive, if that makes sense. Thank you, Mike R. Self-vilification. God, I've been so engrossed in the talk that I have forgotten the bingo card, and I apologize. I knew I was forgetting something. The bingo card. So guys, today's bingo card is card A. A as an apple. I complete brain freeze on my part. I apologize for that. So link to the bingo cards is in the description. If you don't have your A card up already, I'll give you a second. But let's go to the card real quick. Collectivizes own demographic. Well, if we're talking about whiteness, collectivizes own demographic. And also circling free space. So free space collectivizes own demographic. Systemic institutional. Not yet. Equity. Not yet. Childhood or family anecdote. Well, she's given several family anecdotes, so circling that one. Diversity and inclusion. She hasn't said that yet. Plays victim. Well, surviving white supremacy would place her into a victimhood state. I'm going to wait a little bit to see if there's something more concrete there. Microaggressions, unconscious bias. Not yet. Privilege. Did she say privilege? Not yet that I can think of. Contradicts own point or argument. She hasn't made an argument yet. Patriarchy, no. Weightless example, hard to tell yet. Wage gap, no. Feminism, no. Marginalization, not yet. A list. I'm going to circle a list just as she goes down the litany of examples of her family's history. So I'm going to circle that. White supremacy, yep, she has said that phrase. Word salad, not yet. Self-vilification or wretchedness. She has stepped on that line, hasn't she? Yeah, I'm going to circle that one. She's already telling us that she needs to escape her natural being, more or less. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. Can't say it's for no reason yet. We'll see. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. Not that I've heard. Mind reading assumes motives. We might get there, but I'm going to leave it blank for the moment. Benevolent condescension. Not yet. Anecdote that probably never happened. I'm willing to stipulate to her family history anecdotes so far. None of them sound beyond the pale, or I have enough information to say that they're somehow false. And of course, if she's looking them up, she doesn't know for sure. Anyway, leaves out vital context. Not yet. She hasn't given us anything to work with yet. So anyway, as I have circled so far, collectivizes own demographic, childhood or family anecdote, free space, a list, white supremacy, and self-vilification and wretchedness. There are several others that are probably pending, but we'll wait and see. And I apologize for my, I don't know, I just had a complete brain freeze on the bingo card. I shouldn't by now. I'm a professional, right? Okay, moving on.
Family members were among those murdered in the Holocaust, including at Auschwitz. I come from a pajama manufacturer.
Wait, did I jump ahead or jump back? Sorry, I want to make sure I didn't cut her off because I thought I jumped. Okay, let's try that again.
In Europe. Extended family members were among those murdered in the Holocaust,
okay, well, anyway.
Including at Auschwitz.
All right.
I come from a pajama manufacturer, real estate investor, furniture wholesaler,
yes,
and an event planner who all settled and thrived among their family and their Jewish and Eastern European communities in Philadelphia. All of my grandparents went to college and were the first generation to do so. And both grandfathers served in World War II. I come from people who loved to collect things. Rocks, dishware, cars.
Buttons on curtains.
Political memorabilia, tools, antiques. I'm the descendant of journalists, salesmen, cancer survivors, people who struggled with addiction and mental health battles, and people committed to charitable and service work.
And
I have ancestors who were in the United States as slavery reached its peak, with nearly 4 million people enslaved. Perhaps some of them had witnessed slave trading.
Perhaps some. Okay, but you're going to set aside your family members who fought the South, fought the Germans, and or died as a result of the Holocaust. a thing that was conducted by real white supremacists. Uh-huh.
During stopovers in the Caribbean and the American South in the 1830s and 40s.
Uh-huh.
I have ancestors who were in the United States as the country was completing the final displacement of American Indian people onto reservations and beginning to send their children to schools and their cultural traditions. The first ancestors of mine arriving to the United States lived on the stolen, unceded land of the Kickapoo, Peoria, Kaskaskia, Miamia, Oceti Shakoi, Potawatomi, Sauk and Meskwaki, Winnebago, and Lenni Lenape.
And where is this taking us? Like a self-imposed guilt trip over actions you had nothing to do with, or I'm just guessing. I don't know. Yeah, everybody is the end product of countless other people in the lineage in some way, shape, or form, whether you're direct or sidewise. This is the question of the show. And big question mark.
I have ancestors who wouldn't have been considered white until the end of World War II, as Jews also became middle class. Their neighborhoods in Philadelphia were redlined and disinvested as they also became majority Black. The GI Bill, arguably the most massive affirmative action program in US history, offered college and very cheap home mortgages to my grandfathers.
Wait, affirmative action? The GI Bill was an affirmative action. Okay, that just threw my brain for a little bit of a loop, because my definition of modern affirmative action is, weighing someone's opportunities based on their race and or their class. The GI Bill went to GIs. Admittedly, it wasn't a perfect system, but maybe I'm just brain freezing on the concept of the GI Bill being an affirmative action program. Thank you, Scrappy Pirate. Monty Python, get on with it! Yeah, no kidding. If someone knows what she's talking about, because I am no historian, and I do not know all the mechanisms of how the GI Bill worked by any means necessary. So if somebody knows if her application of the phrase affirmative action is correct for the GI Bill, let me know in the chat. When we get to the end, at least, if I don't notice it in the meantime, because I'm curious to know what, if anything, that meant.
James Baldwin also offered the following.
You rely a lot on James Baldwin. All right.
White means that you are European still, and Black means that I'm African.
Oh, does it? Really? I cannot escape the original stamping I was placed with. I'll always be European, though I have never been to Europe. Oh, okay. Thank you, James Baldwin.
And we both know we've both been here too long.
Oh, so I should just leave?
You can't go back to Ireland or Poland or England, and I can't go back to Africa.
I've never been to Ireland or Poland or England. I'm an American. Why? I can't go back to where I've never been.
We will live here together, or we will die here together.
Yeah, but if we've been here for too long, then... James Baldwin is a confusing individual in that statement.
My family has very, very few cultural traditions from my European ancestors that persisted into my lifetime.
So again, the elements or facts of your ancestry were irrelevant to your growing up. Okay.
I do not feel connected to France, Germany, Poland, Norway, England, Russia, or Ukraine.
And as well, you shouldn't. because you've never been there and have nothing to do with those countries. Why not form connections in your home, in your life?
And yet, this exploration has helped me begin to answer Ella Baker's question and James Baldwin's call for accountability.
Accountability. Oh, okay. To what do you take account of your ancestors' actions?
I will assume complexity in the lives of my ancestors, as I would wish anyone to assume complexity about my life.
But
looking at what I know about my ancestors, I see moments of poverty and discrimination that could have linked our lives to larger struggles.
Thank you, Gay Rascal. Sorry I'm late. Here, no ticky, no scribey. Thank you, Rascal. Wait, didn't I say hi to you at the top of the chat? Or were you just saying hi earlier and then popped in later? Either way, thanks for showing up. Mr. Tickletrunk, thanks so much. Missed the last week of streams due to an eye injury. $10 to catch up on Dogcat Fox's farting hearts that probably smell like sweet tarts I missed along the way. Also, hello, Scribe and Chat. Thank you, Mr. Tickletrunk. I hope your eye's okay. I've had my own eye issues in the relatively recent past, and those are no fun. And thank you again for the dancing, heart-farting Dogcat box. I hadn't actually looked at that before and thought of it as he was farting hearts. Do you appreciate that? Wowie, wow, wow. I'm not quite sure how to interpret that, but anyway, I was waiting for an exception to her allowing for the complexity of her ancestors' lives and that they were also the victims of persecution and discrimination.
Perhaps my ancestors would be dancing for joy that me and many in my generation are actively pursuing anti-racist and anti-capitalist futures.
Anti-racist and anti-capitalist futures. I don't know. Do you know what anti-racism actually preaches? First and foremost, the actual, current doctrine of anti-racism. Do you know what anti-capitalism leads to in the alternative? You want to tell me again about your Polish ancestors, your Russian ancestors, a little bit, Ukrainian ancestors, somewhat? You want to think about that for a second? No? Okay.
Nonetheless, the family has histories that I intend to reckon with are those of race and class privilege, the disproportionate ability to build generational wealth that makes me upper class today.
Oh no, she's upper class today. She also said privilege, so I'm circling privilege, and I'm also circling plays victim, because all of a sudden, the prosperity of her family. Oh, she is so dragged down by the hard work of her ancestors to support their families and survive atrocity and fight for their country. And oh gosh, this burden that she now carries on her shoulders. She must somehow account for it, reckon with it. Yeah, okay, well, terrible, terrible burden she carries.
And the cycles of remaining comfortable in our positions of power and opportunity.
So you're going to give all your money away and live like a pauper then? That'll cleanse your spirit? I mean, if that's your decision.
Okay. Here's part 2.
Oh, the sequel. All right. Well, hey, I'm ready to go. Asian Hippie says, contradict her own point, Scribelight. You'll have to tell me, because I don't know if we've gotten to a point yet. Did I miss something? Let me know. And if I don't get your answer now, when we get to the end of the show and we have any squares left to be circled, we'll come around back to that again.
Healing from white supremacy.
Oh, okay. This is the one I was waiting for. Okay. So finding your people was just doing some family history research. Okay. And now you know, quote unquote, who your people are. having absolutely nothing to do with your actual life and not being relevant at all to you until someone asked you a question, never occurred to you. You were the product of your own choices up to that point, and now you know how evil your family was or something, and you're going to be held accountable by James Baldwin for what your family did in the past. All right, well, let's get to the surviving white supremacy part, because that is really the meat of what I was attracted to in the title of this show.
There's something I need to remind myself again and again. Everyone raised in the United States is raised within racist and oppressive systems.
Oh, okay. Well, first and foremost, I don't believe that to be true, because I have challenged just about everybody I've come across who said such things to show me where the racist policies are. And every time that I've asked that question, or that question has been rhetorically posed, I'm always confronted with things that are no longer in effect. You know, the Immigration Act of 1819 or something, or this, that, or the other, or the Jim Crow laws, and on and on and on and on, the mass incarceration, on and on. Okay. Show me where the racist policies are. Show me how popular active racism is today. Show me. I don't see it. But if you want to believe that you are an inherent racist and make apologies for that, you know what? I'll believe you.
I don't believe that anyone is inherently bad, including white people.
Oh. You start out this talk telling us that you actively judged white people, but you don't believe white people are inherently bad. Oh, but then you are avoiding acknowledging your whiteness. Yeah, no. All right, circling systemic institutional, because she talked about systems. Let's see. Which one do I? Yeah, contradicts own pointer argument. Yep. She double backed on herself there. Oh man. Let's see. Equity, diversity, inclusion, microaggressions, patriarchy, weightless example. Wage gap, feminism. Wage gap. She talked about her. She didn't make a direct comparison, though. Not yet. I'm going to sit on that one. Feminism, no. Marginalization, not yet. Word salad. We'll probably get there. Make something about race, sex, for no reason. I think that's it for the moment. So again, reviewing the card at present: collectivizes own demographics, systemic institutional, childhood or family anecdote, plays victim, privilege, contradicts own pointer argument, free space, a list, white supremacy, and self-vilification or wretchedness. Thank you, John Miller. She's in a Kafka trap. Yes. Of her own making. All right, moving on.
But all people have racism reinforced into us, whether external or internalized racism.
So James Baldwin is racist, externalized or internalized. All people. This is the common denominator. Racism is a part of us. It is the air that we breathe. It is the water in which we swim. It is the original sin. Okay. Now that you've confessed your inherent racism, even though you don't hate white people, even though racism is it's either the elevation and or denigration of a person or persons on the basis of their skin color, you don't hate anybody. Right.
Simply by living in the United States.
Simply by living in the United States, we are all racist and complicit. Okay, got it.
We are born into systems much larger than us. A toxic culture of whiteness that conditions us.
Oh.
However, we're not powerless. We can and must intentionally walk ourselves away from that socialization.
Well, of course we're not powerless. You just told us that white people have all the power. White supremacy is a thing. Why would white people be powerless? I'm missing something.
It is vulnerable to confront and admit to the lies we have believed,
Oh, okay.
that white people are somehow superior to others.
I've never believed that.
It is safer and more emotionally secure to take ourselves to be innocent.
Oh, okay. Benevolent condescension, circling that one. All the white people, I mean, it's not your fault that you're just so emboldened by the obvious truth that is a lie, that you're all superior to everybody else. You know, I just sitting here, I know of at least one person that believes in white supremacy. Who do you think it is?
However, white supremacy doesn't only cause hell for Black folks.
Oh.
As Princeton professor Eddie Glaude points out,
Hmm.
quote, "It is literally deforming and disfiguring the character of the people who embrace it," unquote.
Oh, white supremacy is bad for white people. Okay.
If we aren't confronting the lies we were taught,
Mm-hmm.
we adjust ourselves to injustice.
Aha. The lies we were taught. Well, I wasn't taught that white people are superior to other people. In fact, I was taught that Nazis are bad. I watched Indiana Jones a couple of times. I had a notion. I listened in history class. I watched the footage from the civil rights movement and so on and so forth. I never had a notion that white people were better. And in fact, I am challenged to recall anyone in my life who was ever a teacher or a mentor who passed that notion on to me. But hey, I guess I'm just special. Obviously, our speaker knows the lies everyone else is told. So I'm going to circle mind reading assumes motives. Boy, oh boy, we got a lot on the board, but no bingos yet. Okay.
The place where I grew up, Hopewell Valley
Uh-huh.
in central New Jersey,
Yes.
is largely a place of abundance.
Okay.
Preserved green space,
Mm.
a top-ranked school district,
Mm-hmm.
and a median income of about $135,000.
Wow.
I was instilled with the belief that Hopewell is a progressive community
Mm.
that lives out the values of open-mindedness.
But it's actually a cesspool of white supremacy? Is that what we're about to learn?
And open arms to the diversity of the world around us.
But, diversity and inclusion. All right. We have diversity on the board. Oh man, we're just a couple away, guys. Just a couple away from getting a bingo or two even. All right.
Arms to the diversity of the world around us.
Right.
I saw the problems of the world happening elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Down the road in Trenton or across the global south in so-called developing countries.
So-called developing countries? Are they not developing countries? In contrast to other countries?
In reality, my hometown has been a place of violence, direct and structural.
Direct and structural. Okay, do tell. Tell us about the violence of Hopewell Valley, or Hope, whatever it is.
A neighbor in my hometown,
Yeah.
Renata Barnes, recently wrote the following.
Okay.
In truth, our own Sourland mountains are soaked in the tears, sweat, and hopes of first-generation slaves as their descendants drive the roads that began as trails beaten back by their ancestors.
Yeah, there is not a nation on the planet whose history is free of atrocity. You won't find a one. So, just saying. By the way, you know all those Indian tribes that you listed off as the land that your ancestors occupied and stole from? You know that many Native American tribes practice slavery? I don't know if you knew that. I mean, maybe it's the history you don't know. Maybe it's a lie you were told, or a truth you were never, taught. I don't know. But does that change anything about your calculus of how much you owe anybody for anything? Thank you, Mr. Tickletrunk. I hope I'm typing this correctly and you can read it, because I can't. LOL. Communism's influence is 100%. It's awful, no matter your skin color, that people are being taught to hate themselves and others. Indeed. and between anti-racism and the assumed alternative to the anti-capitalist thing that she's talking about, there really is a whole lot of self-hate and oppression that she's promoting. But I don't think she understands that, which is very worrisome, but not uncommon.
In my lifetime, I went to schools and lived in a neighborhood that was deeply segregated from the majority Black and Latinx state capital of Trenton, just a few miles down the road.
It was segregated? So there were rules in place to divide people up by race? Oh, were you part of an affinity group by any chance?
One of the things that I learned growing up was a white savior complex. I was very subscribed to the idea that I needed to help or fix Black communities near and far.
Don't you still hold that belief? Aren't you just, categorizing yourself as a white savior, but in the sort of self-pitying version?
My first significant experience within a community of color was traveling to Kenya as a 15-year-old with my biology teacher, Dr. Ngweni, who took us around the country and to his own hometown.
You got to travel to Kenya? That's a privilege. Oh.
I romanticized the ways of life I observed in Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps I was craving the aspects of Kenyan cultures that white culture did not provide me. But simultaneously, I came home and set upon essentially making decisions about what is best for other people.
Uh-huh. And that outlook has changed how?
What food to buy for distributions in Trenton, for example, or what projects to fundraise for in rural Kenya.
Uh-huh.
Flash forward to my first job after college,
Uh-huh.
and I found myself having a quarter-life crisis.
Oh.
Feeling like my job at a mainstream environmental organization was completely unfulfilling.
Well, it's good that you had the privilege to just decide you didn't want to do a particular job, I guess.
But I couldn't quite put my finger on why this seemingly mission-driven place was so disappointing,
Oh, okay.
and why I felt such guilt about how I spent my days.
It's a you problem, maybe?
I had a huge awakening when I first read The Characteristics of White Supremacy Culture, the analysis of Kenneth Jones and Tema Okin.
Oh, okay. So when you read a book telling you that you were part of an evil philosophy, whether you knew it or not, then you had this awakening. Okay, so being accused of being a villain is what brought you around to this path of virtue. Got it.
I could apply every single characteristic to my workplace.
Your workplace was a hub of white supremacy, you say? I can read a horoscope, and I can probably apply a lot of it to just about anything in my life if I decide to fill in the gaps with my imagination.
Paternalism, perfectionism, urgency, individualism, objectivity.
Yeah, those nasty, nasty notions of individualism and objectivity. Yeah, how dare we?
Fear of open conflict, defensiveness, a preference for quantity over quality, believing in only one right way to do things, trying to simplify complex things, hoarding power, and expecting a right to comfort.
Okay. I'll just have to take her word for it since I don't know what she's talking about. But all right. So the place you worked was a den of evil. So you ran straight out of there, right?
I also realized that this culture was one that I knew deeply and had perpetuated throughout my own life.
So you are complicit. Got it.
I've been learning that guilt and shame can be important for mobilizing people with privilege.
Yes, Yes, Neo-Catholicism. Guilt will lead the way. We can guilt you into compliance. Yes. Excellent. You have learned a good lesson. Keep everybody feeling guilty about things they have no control over, and you can control them and lead them toward salvation. You're right. Guilt has its uses, doesn't it?
But they can also become toxic.
You don't say.
If we sit in them.
Oh.
It does not serve anyone to allow these feelings to drive you to anxiety and depression that is debilitating.
Oh, not debilitating, but just enough to keep you humble, right? You should only have as much guilt pushed upon you as will keep you humble and working, not, curled up into a ball in the corner, right?
It does not serve anyone to allow these feelings to drive you to anger and hostility.
Oh, yes, of course. Being accused of things, being held to account for things that I had nothing to do with. Why would I ever feel angry or hostile towards such things being forced upon me and me being expected to pay some kind of penance for things I had nothing to do with? Why would there be any kind of anger or hostility towards that? And if you do act angry or hostile, it's obviously just a confession of your guilt, right?
Or self-righteousness and elitism towards
but self-right. Wait. So if I have feelings of guilt, that's going to take me to a point of self-righteousness. Okay, I'm getting to the point of circling word salad in a second here.
Debilitating. It does not serve anyone to allow these feelings to drive you to anger and hostility, or self-righteousness and elitism toward people you love.
Uh-huh. Except that you are putting yourself, aren't you, into a more elitist position, a more enlightened position than those people of your hometown, or your own family members, or anybody else who's white, because obviously they are complicit in the systems of racism and oppression. Haven't you created your new own elitist society? Or am I completely off base? I mean, I am white.
For people like me, people with race and class privilege, to be in solidarity with people unlike myself and to be able to successfully call in other people with privilege to hard conversations, I believe we have to heal from our own pain, from internalized white supremacy.
Yes, anyone who isn't white is obviously disadvantaged. Tell me again how you're healing from white supremacy. And I'm going to circle word salad because that last little bit made no sense. Okay, let's go.
I'm still learning how to pursue healing. But here's what it's looked like for me so far.
All right.
In one instance where I caused harm to a Black housemate,
okay,
she called in 2 healers to facilitate a dialogue.
What harm did you cause? Calling in 2 healers to facilitate a dialogue. Okay, sounds vaguely like restorative justice, which, depending on the circumstances, isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I would need to know the enormity of your crime. Am I going to have to circle leaves out vital context? Because I'm about to.
Though we didn't heal our relationship, in large part because of my own guilt and shame that I trapped myself in, these healers were essential to reframing my thinking.
So the conflict was not resolved. Did you really need the quote-unquote healers there to do this? You didn't, I don't know, take responsibility for your own actions and try to apologize? I mean, if you knew what you did was wrong, whatever you did you do it, whatever this was, to this person because they were Black? Okay, I'm circling leaves out vital context. I might also end up circling weightless example, because I'm not quite sure what this pertains to.
Later, Sandra Kim, founder of Everyday Feminism and Rebecoming Human.
Everyday Feminism? Oh boy, I haven't talked about that for a long time. Didn't we look at that website long time ago on Lords of the Night every once in a while? I think we did.
Helped me understand my own need to build emotional capacity to understand the realities of white supremacy and how it dehumanizes white people.
Yes, white supremacy dehumanizes white people. Yes, yes. You needed to understand and learn your own emotional capacity, because prior to this, you didn't have any or something. You know, a pattern's forming here. You seem to have more and more discoveries about yourself the more and more you are accused of doing things or being something that is inherently flawed. Huh.
To reconnect with myself,
Yes.
reconnect with my lineages, and reconnect with nature.
Okay.
I found I needed therapy and medication.
If you wallow in self-imposed guilt over things you had nothing to do with, if you feel vilified every day, self-vilified for the color of your skin, if you take responsibility for the actions of your ancestors and decide that I'm going to be the avatar of their responsibility, yeah, I can see how you'd need medication and therapy. To quote a song lyric that I seemingly often like to quote, your pain is self-chosen. Thank you, Mr. Tickletrunk. Calling in others to interpret what people are saying plus heal is cult behavior 101. Taking an adult's agency away is unimaginable to justify otherwise. Yeah, there are definitely religious overtones to a lot of what is being said here without the, mysticism to it necessarily. Inherent guilt, immutable flaw, perpetual penance, and on and on.
Over time, I began practicing getting more rooted in my body, using breathing and meditative exercises, getting outside to walk every day, and dancing with my partner.
Okay, so meditation, nature walks, and dancing. Has this alleviated you of your white guilt?
I have found communities for healing conversations with other white people with wealth and class privilege, and other white people in my neighborhood.
How can you heal if you are wealthy and have class privilege? Don't you have to get rid of those things, because otherwise you're just continually perpetuating the problem? I mean, I assume that you have divested yourself of all of your personal wealth and detached yourself from any familial support from the legacy of white supremacy that you are the inherent benefiter of, right? Or beneficiary, I should say. You've done all of those things, right? Because otherwise, how are you going to, disconnect yourself from whiteness?
I found healing in redistributing the excess wealth and income that I do not need.
Yay! Okay, well, hey, at least you're going to practice what you preach. That's good. Okay. So does anybody who doesn't do that, are they inherently evil then?
I've slowly been reconnecting with my Jewish identity through holidays, events hosted by a wonderful local group, and being in community with my partner and another Jewish housemate.
Okay. So some of your best friends are Jewish? Got it.
I have the honor to work at one of the oldest and largest civil rights organizations in the country, to organize with brilliant neighbors who are defending public housing and supporting mutual aid during the pandemic, and to live in a multiracial and cross-class intentional community of artists and activists.
Cross-class intentional community. Okay.
To show up in these spaces as a white person means constant self-reflection.
Yeah. Self-reflection of, I don't belong here. I'm the bad guy. I must defer to anyone who is of a darker skin tone than I am because obviously I'm terrible.
And accountability.
Yeah, well, okay. You said it in one word and I kind of went off.
I think about Ella Baker's wisdom for how I participate in the movement for collective liberation.
Collective liberation. Anti-capitalism. Mm-hmm.
She, quote, pushed college students to see illiterate sharecroppers as their people.
What?
Their allies and their political mentors.
Wait. She pushed college students to see illiterate sharecroppers as their allies and mentors? I got to back up and listen to that one more time. Sorry, guys. Make sure I didn't miss something. Thank you again, Mr. Tickle Trunk. Not just religious overtones, literal cult behavior. Scientology uses the same approach to conflict, but with the added auditing of yourself. Well, self-reflection, having the healers come in and help you reframe your thinking about things. It's pretty much right there. It's pretty much all the ingredients are right there. Okay, what was this about illiterate sharecroppers again?
I think about Ella Baker's wisdom for how I participate in the movement for collective liberation. She, quote, pushed college students to see illiterate sharecroppers as their people, their allies and their political mentors.
Illiterate sharecroppers should be college students' people, allies, and political mentors. Workers of the world unite.
She pushed Northerners to embrace Southerners in principled solidarity. She organized back and forth across various color and cultural lines and across generational divides. Unquote. Solidarity means finding my own stake in racial justice.
I thought individualism was bad.
And slowly, I think I'm getting there.
Oh, I think you're finding your role in racial justice. Yes, I really do. You're joining the flock, because I've heard this many times from many people. I hate to tell you this, you're not that special.
Along the way, I'm finding that who I consider my people is growing and growing, and I'm feeling more and more myself. Thank you.
Sounds like you're feeling more and more like what people are telling you to think of yourself. Because all of your revelations, your self-discoveries along the way have been people accusing you of being a flawed creature, and you accepting and internalizing those accusations. That's what I got out of this anyway. But that all being said, let me pull up the bingo card here, and we will see where we are at. See where we are going. Okay, this is where we're at right now. We are on the edge of several bingos. So let's go over what's remaining. Equity. I don't believe she ever said the word. And again, given the fact that this would be a double bingo, the hill you have to climb, chat, to get me to circle equity is going to be pretty steep. Because unless you can point to an instance where she said the word very explicitly, yeah. Microaggression, unconscious bias, no. Well, maybe I'll sit on that one. Patriarchy. She talked about paternalism in referencing her job, so I will, as an extension, I will take that one. Let's see. Weightless example. I do have a hesitation in circling two squares for the same instance, like her story about healing and the healers and all that kind of thing. I circled leaves out vital context, and she never said what was her offense. It also being a weightless example, I'm hesitant. If you guys can think of another weightless example in the course of things. Wage gap. Well, she talked a lot about class, privilege, and wealth. Yeah, I'm going to circle that one. I mean, she wasn't talking about gender wage gap or that kind of thing, but she's obviously talking about racial wealth gap. So circle that one. Let's see. Feminism. I mean, she mentioned the patriarchy, but did she bring up anything about feminism? I don't recall. So marginalization. No. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. And again, it's that last caveat that's always the stick point. For no reason. Her entire talk required her to talk about race. Whether it makes sense or not, that was the reason for the entire presentation. So I can't circle that one on the basis of at least race. If you guys can come up with something else. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. I didn't hear a new buzzword or buzz phrase. So I didn't hear anything was like something I like to call. She was referencing a lot of other people. An anecdote that probably never happened. The only one that she listed off that would be questionable would be the one about her and her roommate and the conflict thereof. But without more information and given her temperament so far, I can believe that it happened. I can believe that there was a quote unquote healer assisted facilitation between her and her roommate of some kind. Yeah, so that's where I'm at. I will take arguments for other squares to be circled, but the ones that I see that could get us to the quickest bingos, unless you've got a direct example or a really good argument. Thank you, Corey Suzuki. She said feminism today, like the website. Oh, that's right. That's right. Oh, again, brain freeze. Thank you, Corey. You're right. You're right. You're right. When you're right, you're right. You got it. Okay. I apologize. I was so discombobulated by everything else in the talk. All right. But again, that's that still brings us to the edge in several instances, and I'll need some good ones. Mike R. Feminism, yes. Lexi Mad, she works with the oldest civil rights organization in the country and works in a cross-class commune. Is that not equity? Diminishing herself and helping the poor BIPOCs. Let me sit on that one for a second. Snow Pilot, microaggression. Her roomie example was obviously a microaggression, else cops would have been involved. I can't make that assumption. Without more information, I don't know what harm she caused. I mean, it might be a good guess, but I have to be honest, I can't say. And she didn't give us any more information, so I'm kind of stuck. Let's see. Perfect pitch, powerless. Double T bingo, come on. The future of humanity is not bright, Sister Adamantine. Okay. Perfect pitch, weightless example, but whites are not powerless. That'd be more like contradicts own point or argument than a weightless example. It wasn't an example, it was a declaration. Okay. I think it really all comes down to this. And so since I'm on the edge, I'm going to put it to chat. And as always, guys, I appreciate your honesty and your pragmatism. So I'm going to read Lexi Mads' argument one more time. She works with the oldest civil rights organization in the country and works in a cross-class commune. Is that not equity? Diminishing herself and helping the poor BIPOCs. If you think that general notion qualifies as equity for the board, put a 1 in the chat. If you don't think it makes the cut, put a 2. All right, so 1 if you think that's a good argument, 2 if it doesn't make the cut. So I'll wait a second here for some responses. I got a 1, I got a 1, I got a 1. I got a 1, I got a 1. Got a 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. I got 2. I got a 2. I got a 1.5. Got a 1. Got a 1. Got a 1. Well, I am, if nothing else, responsive to my well-informed and intelligent chat. So, that being the case, what do you know?
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
And
Bingo.
What?
Of course!
double bingo. We got a T bingo on the board. Yeah, I'll give it to you. I mean, if in the aggregate, I suppose overwhelmingly, equity is not an unfair one to circle. All right, I'll give a couple more minutes if anybody has any other arguments for squares not yet circled, but it's going to be an even tougher climb now, because unless you've got a really good argument or example, I think this might be it. Although, boy, oh boy, if it was any other bingo card, I don't even know how many bingos we'd have right now. Let's see. Double bingo. Assassin the Gray. If she wants to engage in true racial justice, she must point out the white devils hiding under the floorboards to the woke Stapo so they may be put on the... Yeah. It's something to watch where you take yourself, you diminish yourself down to a perpetual villain, but then also try to convince everybody that you are enlightened and doing good. Can't really have it both ways. If you are marked forever as a bad person, an inherent evil to the world on the basis of your skin color, you'll never escape that. There is no amount of penance that will cleanse you of that sin. Because no matter how many good works that you do, no matter how many collective communes you associate yourself with, if someone who as well sees white people as inherently bad sees you walking down the street and has no other information about you, because what other information do they need? And they just look at you, they already know what category to put you in. And your actions, yourself, is irrelevant. That's what you're pushing. That's what you're pushing onto yourself and to others when you first practice racism. Even racism against your own race. Still racism. It's still racism. Texas Attorney General, the secret agent, an anecdote that didn't happen, how her streets were born from the paths that slaves walked. Is that an anecdote or just a really silly belief? I don't know if that qualifies as an anecdote. It might be some skewed history. I don't know. Mr. Hugh, anybody know how old she is? When I saw this one, I was curious for a second because the title or the program it was attached to, Hopewell Schools or something. I was wary that this was a TEDx youth talk. And though I haven't avoided them entirely in the history of this channel, I, for the most part, try to stay away from TEDx youth. I don't really feel comfortable, generally speaking, dunking on kids who are probably just parroting things they've been told by more ideological adults. So when I saw her and I thought, she looks awfully young. I looked her up. No, she's a college student. She's a professional. She's an adult. So I don't know her exact age, but she's not a teenager or anything like that. Let's see. Yeah, Texas AG said, yeah, she had a quarter life crisis. Yeah, so she was at least 25 in her late 20s or something at this point. Yeah. Yeah, I don't see the streets paved with slavery being an anecdote per se. So yeah, I can't really take that one without more information. I can only work with what she has presented with us here, and I didn't really see that as an anecdote. Might be a misguided belief or a self-vilified myth, but yeah. I think I'm going to call it there, guys. We accomplished much with this one, looking at the card. If it was any other card, we might have who knows how many bingos right now, but card A was the selection, and here we are. We have a double bingo. Doesn't happen very often. A nice big T. And yeah. So what did we learn today? Well, we learned that our speaker hates herself, doesn't hate white people, but totally thinks that white people have a lot to apologize for. And also the entirety of her ancestry, which was irrelevant to her until someone decided to accuse her of not knowing her history, then defined her. Yeah. Being defined by the accusations of others, or I should say self-defining. I wouldn't categorize that as a healthy way of living, but c'est la vie. And with that, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. If you'd like to hear more from me or Satsu 2 Cents, you can find the both of us tonight on Satsu 2 Cents' channel. Special night for him to take over as host on Thursday, because tonight is his wife Squishy's birthday, and we'll be celebrating her birthday tonight on Satsu's channel at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Elsewise, I may be doing something on Sunday. I'm not quite sure yet, but wait and see. But with that, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for your attendance. Thank you so much for your argumentation and consideration. Thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. I hope you all have a good rest of your Thursday. I hope you are all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.